Werewolves, a savage amalgamation of man and beast, a nocturnal monster that preys on the living.
Werewolves have brought terror to the very heart of humanity throughout history.
In this episode, we will endeavor to share with you how to identify and survive a werewolf attack. But the first step, as always, is to know thy enemy.
All right, so, General, I think we're rolling.
All right, we are rolling. Welcome, everybody, to the Know Thy Enemy podcast.
With your hosts, Howard T. Baxter for Completely Unbiased News, and the General.
Hello.
Monster Hunter Extraordinaire, and we're here on the Know Thy Enemy podcast. And today we're talking about, what are we talking about, General?
Werewolves.
Werewolves.
Time to get into werewolves. Werewolves is a really fun subject, and there's a lot to it. So, let me set a scene for you here. All right, paint you a little picture. So you
Yeah, go for it.
as with half of these episodes so far, you're out camping. You're in the middle of nowhere, just enjoying a nice little campfire.
Intrepid journalist out camping, ignoring what he's supposed to do. Typical for a journalist.
Yeah, that's a good point. And so you're sitting out there and you keep hearing a rustling in the brush until finally, just freaking like that, dude. And then you hear a twig snap and you look over to your left, and out from the bushes pops a giant figure. It's all dark and shaggy and hairy, and it lunges at you while going, "Arrgh!" And it bites down hard on your arm, and you think, "Oh God, this is it. I'm going to die." And it goes tearing off back into the woods.
It's my ex-girlfriend.
Yeah. And so you immediately head to a doctor, and they check you out, and they make sure that your arm's all stitched up and everything.
Stitch up my arm.
But strangely, it's not bleeding too much, and it's almost looking like it's scabbing over already. In fact, it's starting to heal around the stitches. How weird. You get home,
weird indeed.
you're exhausted, and you feel more tired than you've ever been in your life. You go and you lay down in bed, and you fall asleep, and you wake up the next morning, and you have blood all over you, and hair all over your bed. It looks like a friggin' St. Bernard was shed in the middle of your bed, and it looks like you cut the head off a chicken. Turns out that you transformed into a werewolf and ate your neighbor.
Wow. All that in one night.
All that in one night, yeah. It's a full moon.
Yeah, which I've always been a little bit confused about. But I guess we'll get into that later, probably.
We actually will, yes. So, werewolves is a very complex, in all seriousness, very, very complex subject, and there's a lot of history to it as well. The idea of the werewolf goes back, basically as far as human history goes, back in the Indo-European history, like the very birth of humanity in the early ages, there was a lot of this idea of being able to turn into a wolf, and there were certain cultures, certain tribes that it was almost a rite of passage where they would supposedly become a werewolf as a rite of passage to move on into their warrior caste.
I know sometimes when I don't get my coffee, I turn into a werewolf.
No, you mispronounced bastard.
What?
You turn into a bastard.
Oh, okay. I see how it is.
Yeah.
This is the way it is, folks. This is the way it is.
Well,
Very
it is.
abusive relationship here at the Gark house. This is me calling for help.
Yes.
Blink
Blink if you're being held captive.
Hang up the phone right now if you're in danger. At the Gark House mansion castle that we're at, the secret castle out in the middle of nowhere. You don't know where it is. In Garkland.
That is for sure a brick wall behind us.
That's for sure. What's happening? It's
for sure
Baxter
what's
in the General Castle somewhere that's haunted.
So,
Try not to derail this again, but you never know.
Back in the 2nd century BC, the Greek geographer Pausanias,
yes.
Pausanias, I believe that's the name, related the story of King Lycaon of Arcadia, who was transformed into a wolf because he had sacrificed a child in the altar of Zeus Lycaeus, which just turned him into a wolf. But there's a lot of different versions of the story. In In the version of the legend told by Ovid in his Metamorphoses, when Zeus visits Lycaon, disguised as a common man, Lycaon wants to test to see if he really is a god. So to that end, he kills a Melosian hostage and serves his entrails to Zeus. Zeus is like, ew, no, and he turns Lycaon into a wolf. However, there's other accounts in that legend, like in the Bibliotheca. Zeus blasts him and his sons with thunderbolts instead. As punishment.
What?
Oh yeah.
So basically, what you're saying is the werewolves go back. Werewolves go back all the way to ancient times.
Oh yeah, way back when.
There's a bunch of different legends that have gone through history. Everyone has a different version, probably, huh?
Like you have stuff like the Bunny Man that's just since the 70s. This is since
The Bunny Man.
way back when. Another fun thing in ancient Greece was basically the idea of eating somebody's entrails and turning into a werewolf was actually fairly common, apparently. Not at all a one-off event. It was a common thread where these people would eat human entrails or the entrails of somebody that was sacrificed to Zeus Lycaon, and then they would turn into a werewolf. But then if they abstained from eating human flesh while being a wolf, they could be turned back in 9 years. But if they don't abstain, they'll remain a wolf forever.
In 9 years? Why is the number 9 specific?
Who the hell knows?
Oh.
Yeah, I actually don't know. But yeah, there was a whole thing where basically a man would be... there were certain cultures where a man would be chosen in like a lottery and would be marched out to this swamp. He'd take all his clothes off, hang them on an oak tree, and swim into the marsh, where he would turn into a wolf, joining a werewolf pack for 9 years. And if he abstained from eating human flesh in those 9 years, he could come, swim back through the marsh, put his clothes back on, and rejoin the living as just a regular human being. But if he ate a dude in that time, he'd be cursed to stay out there for the rest of his days, out as a werewolf with these other werewolves.
Wow.
Yeah. Early Christian authors also mentioned werewolves. In the City of God, Augustine of Hippo gives an account that it is very generally believed that certain witches' spells, or that by certain witches' spells, men may be turned into wolves. So there they go, blaming it on witches right away. All right, and then we move on into the Middle Ages, where it was a very widespread belief in medieval Europe, all throughout mainland Europe and into the British Isles and Scandinavia, that werewolves were freaking everywhere. Basically, it was known that transformations into things like a cat or a snake was also common, but wolf was the biggest known one because that was the most feared predator of the time.
Yeah, wolves get pretty big even today.
Wolves get huge. Like I said in the Black Dog episode, basically, imagine how big you think a wolf is and double it, and that's how big it actually is if you've never seen a wolf. They are massive. So, basically, werewolves were just a scourge of medieval Europe into the 1700s. A lot of witch trials would also have werewolf trials right alongside them, where basically people could be accused of lycanthropy.
Really? I had no idea.
Yep.
So you get the werewolf trials, and are you a werewolf? And they're like, I don't know. Guess we'll find out.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the Wolfman, the new Wolfman film that had Benicio del Toro was the well, it wasn't Benicio del Toro, was it? Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And he was kind of actually he wasn't on trial.
No,
that was an observance by the doctors. Not necessarily a trial.
But yeah, these guys would basically be brought in, and they'd be tried for witchcraft. And in part of that, if said person who was accused of witchcraft was known to turn into a wolf as well, they'd be tried for lycanthropy as well. And oftentimes, people would be blamed for cattle dying off and different farm animals getting mutilated and stuff. And actually, several serial killers from that time, they claimed that they were werewolves. And the one guy would actually wear a wolf pelt over his shoulders and be killing people on the road and stuff like that. And when they finally hunted him down, they brought in these guys from France to hunt him down. And just this dude just galumphing through the woods, just gallivanting along wearing this wolf pelt, just like on all fours, just running like a maniac. And they finally hunted him down and killed him. But he's just the whole time, I'm a werewolf. You can't get me, I'm a werewolf. And
without a doubt in my mind.
Finally took the dude out.
With a spear or an arrow or
something like that, I'm sure.
Something like that.
But so there is also stories in Ireland about a king that was cruel to St. Patrick, getting turned into a werewolf. Stories all throughout Great Britain about people being turned into werewolves. There are werewolf encounters in not a lot, but some of the King Arthur stories even. There's a lot all throughout history. In Germanic paganism, there were the wolfmen, and even in northern Scotland, there was an offshoot of friendly werewolves called the wolven. That basically, if
what
they're called the wolven, and it was these basically it was an anthropomorphic looking werewolf thing. It had a wolf's head that would bring fish to poor farmers that were starving.
The wolven.
He'd show up at night and leave fish on your doorstep, and then.
I mean, they could have just been the neighborhood dog bringing them fish, like as like a present, or a cat. Cats bring you gifts.
Or was it a wolven?
It could have been a wolven right here. You heard it here first. Folks.
Let's see here. So,
never heard of a wolven.
Even in 1539, Martin Luther used the term beer wolf to describe a hypothetical ruler worse than a tyrant who must be resisted.
A beer wolf.
It's fun stuff. There were numerous reports of werewolf attacks in early modern history. In 16th century France, in some cases, there was clear evidence of murder and cannibalism, but no association with wolves. Basically, these people, they would kill people and eat them, like I said, and then be claimed, they were a werewolf, because what human in their right mind would do that? What normal person would do that? They must have been possessed by the spirit of a wolf or something. So lycanthropy became a popular thing with the European witch hunts in the
and then it seemed like they did. They claimed it. So they basically just said, "Oh, you're absolutely right. I'm a werewolf. I'm not insane or anything like that because we don't know what that is yet.
Correct.
I'm just a werewolf."
Exactly.
What a scapegoat.
Exactly, and actually, it's funny.
That's pretty cool.
Because werewolves are are most prominent in Europe because, like I said, that was the main predator
big
of
dogs.
the time. However, in different areas,
there were other big dogs.
There were other ideas of shapeshifters, like were creatures. In Africa, the most popular one were hyenas. In India, were tigers. Were pumas and were jaguars in southern South America. In North America, though, it was usually werewolves as well because there were wolves there, and also a lot of the European hangover.
Yes. Well, and they would come over from wherever, and they would bring their everything with them, legends and werewolves too. They bring werewolves that were on the ship with them.
Yep.
Snuck aboard.
There was even a case of a dude who claimed to be a werewolf of God. He was turned into a werewolf by the Almighty, and every year around the time of the harvest, he would...
My God,
he and his werewolf brothers would go galloping into hell to kill witches before they could come out and steal their grain and drag it back to hell.
Wow.
Yeah, the witches wanted to steal their grain and drag their grain to hell, and so he was the last bulwark against these witches, he and his werewolf brethren.
Werewolves of God. So it was
Werewolves of God.
It was. Well, that's kind of neat.
Yeah. Lycanthropy as a medical condition was a very popular thing, even into the mid 1900s, where basically lycanthropy was associated with a condition called porphyria, with symptoms of photosensitivity, reddish teeth, and psychosis. Also, people that have that disease where you get disease, but was it hypertrichosis or however you say it, where you get most like all the fur, you get like the wolf boy and stuff from the circus and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, very rare and
very rare.
And because I don't know, I'm probably sure that still happens somewhere today, but at the time, was it J.T. Barnum took advantage of that?
Yes.
And I said, look right here, was Wolf Boy. He made lots of money.
However, another thing,
very awesome human.
Often remarked with being.
I'm just kidding.
It's a muddy history.
Criminal, yeah. It's not like the fun movie, no. With Hugh Jackman being fun.
He was a little more brutal than that.
Yeah, but it's always pretty interesting history, I have to say.
Oh yeah, fun to learn about.
But but anyway, ooh.
Yeah, people with Down syndrome were often reported to be werewolves because of their flatter heads, which was often considered to be a sign of being a werewolf, and also just that general confusion that some have. The people with Down syndrome were often killed because they thought they were werewolves. A baby would be born very obviously with Down syndrome, and sometimes they would go and like drown it in the creek because they were like, oh god, this is a werewolf.
Well, then they'd probably come after the mother too, or even the father. That what curse?
Very quite possibly, yeah.
Depending on wherever they are, what part of the world. That's very interesting learning about that. When people, they just don't know. They don't have the knowledge we have now,
right?
So they think it's magic or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That's very interesting stuff. But also, I have to say this really quick too. So lycanthropy.
Yes.
So I've never heard that term before. I've just heard of we have werewolves. But then they've also been described as lichens.
Yes.
So you have the lichens versus vampires type of situation.
Yes.
So this term of lycanthropy, it
actually comes
not new.
Werewolf comes from the Old English, which were meaning man, wolf, werewolf, wolfman, man, wolf.
Yes.
Lycanthropy comes from basically the Greek. The ancient Greek.
So that's the sort of the Greek version.
Yeah, like lycanthropy was like to be a wolf or something like that. It's some. I can't remember the exact translation, but it is very similar to that. It's basically the same idea, just in Greek.
But it's ancient Greeks that came up with that.
Correct.
Wow, that's out of my mind.
Yep. So lycanthropy, that's become a thing, and it's held over because a lot of different. Medical journals and things from the Middle Ages in through the Renaissance would cite things and name them using Latin and Greek because they were both ancient languages and basically made people seem a little bit smarter. Instead of saying like, oh, that guy's got wolf dude disease.
Well, and people would still be able to speak those languages.
Yes.
Back then as well, whereas now it's kind of a dead language.
More or less.
Well, you could still speak what was I speaking? Well, obviously people speak Greek, but I'm speaking of ancient Latin.
Well, Latin.
So
something being a dead language doesn't mean that nobody speaks it anymore.
That's what I was getting to.
It means that it falls out of the modern.
There's no updating it.
Correct.
Exactly. The books are closed. Basically, it's like no, this is done.
Nothing's going to change.
There's no Latin word for computer.
Yep. You're never going to have yeet or riz.
Thank God. There's no. What is that? What's a good word? There's
You got this, Baxter.
No, it's a really funny joke. I just need a little more coffee and be able to remember what I'm talking about here.
All right. Well, I'm going to continue with this then while you're thinking of that. Feel free to interrupt whenever you figure it out. People being bit by a dog with rabies.
Now that I've had a couple cups of coffee, don't interrupt here, but it's...
You figured it out?
Twerking.
Yeah,
there's no Latin word for twerking.
No Latin word
Thank
for twerking.
God.
Yep.
That's all the joke I was trying to get to.
Oh my God, I am so happy.
Isn't that great?
You remembered that you.
We can continue to talk about Down syndrome
That
now.
was what... So there would be stories of guys getting bit by a dog with rabies, and they would think that, oh, this guy's been bit by a werewolf because he's showing all the same signs that the werewolf or the dog did. Foaming at the mouth, very aggressive, afraid of water, things like that. So that was a very common thing back in the day because, you didn't have a cure for rabies. You got bit by a rabid dog, you are going to die. Like, that's a death sentence.
I'm not sure there's even a cure for rabies today.
There is.
For humans?
Yep, you just have to get it in your system very fast.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, it's a really painful... It's a painful series of shots they do right in your abdomen. It's the worst thing ever. Absolutely horrible. But it's better than dying of rabies, so.
Which you spasm when you drink water.
Yes, you actually become hydrophobic, where you are basically adverse to water. You're afraid of it, weirdly enough. It's very strange.
It's very sad.
Most people with rabies die from dehydration before anything else. But yeah,
this is a pretty sour one here.
Yeah. Talking about all kinds of dead stuff. So we're going to get into the characteristics of a werewolf, how to identify one. The transformation may be temporary or permanent, so you might have a werewolf turns into a wolf full-time, just like the ancient Greek guys that would eat the human flesh and then remain a wolf forever. Or you have the idea with the pop culture werewolves where,
the moon.
Yep, they come back after they're done.
So yeah, is this sort of so it's basically just whenever there's a full moon, that's the only time that you transform into a werewolf. And you have to be exposed to the moon, so if you're inside, you won't change, or does this just depend on what movie you're watching?
It depends on what movie you're watching. In history, actually, the whole idea of the moon having anything to do with it is loosely based on the idea of wolves themselves howling at the moon, which actually wolves howling at the moon, it's not actually the moon they're howling at. They're howling to try and figure out where other packs are and stuff, or where the members of their pack are. But, you'd see wolves better when there's a full moon, and so there would be more sightings of wolves on a full moon. And so the idea of turning into a werewolf with the full moon stems from that.
So it all stems from folklore.
All stems from folklore,
more
yes.
or less.
Yep. The werewolf itself may be the person...
Wait,
go ahead.
We did a couple episodes on werewolves. I just remember this. And there'll be a description, or it'll be in the video will be in the bottom below there. What are you talking about?
We did one episode where we talked about them.
Yeah, we talked about werewolves.
Oh, okay. I thought you were pretending. Fought some werewolves.
No, not yet.
I haven't fought a werewolf since the
war. Not yet, but you were pretending.
Scary.
You were pretending to be a werewolf.
Oh yeah, I was galloping on the ground and everything was right here, just like the crazy guy with the wolf skin. Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Just like that. Yeah,
it was pretty wild.
That's a pretty good episode. It's one of the. That was when we were first starting to get to know each other.
I think that was our third. Yeah, that was when I still hated you.
That was still back when I was still trying to be a good reporter, completely unbiased news. Yeah, I still am. Completely unbiased news.
You pulled some pretty shady stuff on me in that episode, if I remember correctly.
Well, we were trying to. We're just trying to find out some stuff about the war, about the monster war. Which, by the way, we need to get to that. There were lots of werewolves in the war.
We are actually going to talk about that in this episode.
But right now, I want to talk about something else. The number 9. Why is the number 9 significant? I think actually, isn't it in Japanese? It's the number of completion.
I believe that's number 8 in Chinese culture.
Well, it's one of those. There is no number 9 is completion because Seinfeld ended with 9. I shit you not, General. They ended with 9 seasons, and one of the whoever producers was talking to one of the other people that are in the show, and said, well, in whatever culture it was, that 9 was the number of completion. We could probably look it up real quick.
That's fascinating.
We should look it up and find out.
So, oh, Jesus. All right.
Is the 9 the year of completion in some...
Here we go.
Because then this might help solve the mystery as to why it's always... Perhaps that it's only after 9 years you're a werewolf that you've completed the cycle.
Number 9 is revered in Hinduism and considered a complete, perfected, and divine number because it represents the end of a cycle in the decimal system. So
not exactly what
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then you start over 10, 11, 12. So yeah, that's why.
Yeah. So it's not specific, really, at least from what we can find right here, to any specific culture per se.
The number 9 has been traced back to as early as 3000 BC.
So it carries that cultural significance. It could be all of those. Any of those cultures.
Yeah.
It's fascinating stuff.
Seinfeld.
Yeah. Well, that too, yeah. That goes off, it trails off in all those different directions.
So, werewolves. Werewolf itself.
Also, because we're going through all these really, really quickly, I wanted to talk about some of it.
Oh, yeah. Stop me, whatever. Yeah.
So...
No, werewolves can be the wolf itself. It could be a double who leaves the basically the guy could just transform directly into a wolf, like a little poof, and then he's just a wolf. Or it could be that harrowing thing like from An American Werewolf in London, where it's just long drawn out.
Werewolf in London, really
change. Good. It could be a spirit that leaves the guy while he's sleeping in a bed, and the spirit goes off and goes and rips people apart, and maybe his soul, which goes forth seeking whomever it may devour, leaving his body in a trance state. Might be a body double that shows up. It's the exact appearance of the guy.
Really? So it's like that. It's where you're seeing. It's the fear of like the doppelganger.
Yes, actually.
So
yes.
more or less, you have a doppelganger, and he's out there looking at you through the windows, and he turns into a werewolf.
Just like that.
This is very weird.
It is weird.
Christopher Nolan could do something insane with that.
Oh, dude. We just saw Oppenheimer. And
we just saw Oppenheimer.
So freaking good.
It's a really good movie.
I was very satisfied with it.
Typically in a film, you can recall certain scenes that you really loved. Well, this movie was one large
giant
scene. I can say without a doubt in my mind, this is an experience that your senses are being assaulted in a good way, not in a bad way, where like a Transformers, where you're just being smashed in the face.
Yeah, Nolan, we know you watch us. Make sure you make a werewolf
Christopher
movie.
Nolan, if you ever watch this, we're huge fans, and please make a werewolf movie.
So werewolves in European folklore specifically, a sign that a man might be, or a woman, a person might be a werewolf is...
this is true. It's a really good point.
Yeah.
You never hear about women becoming werewolves.
You do it in some movies, but it's usually dudes.
Actually, yeah, you're right. Dog soldiers.
Yeah, it was a lady werewolf.
There's women werewolves in that one, yeah.
All you got to do is just Google female werewolf, and you will find all kinds of artwork on Google Images.
I guess it's not common, General. It's just not.
Yep, all kinds of wolf boobs.
Like you paying the bills. It's just not common.
It's not common at all. But signs that somebody might be a werewolf is their eyebrows meeting in the middle, so a unibrow.
Oh man, the poor people that have naturally
unibrowy eyebrows. Yep, they're werewolves, Baxter. Also, if somebody has curved fingernails, so if their fingernails move down over the tip, you know how some people get that their fingernails follow the curve of their finger.
I know a couple ladies that their fingernails are like that.
Werewolves.
I shouldn't date them anymore because they're actually werewolves.
Yeah.
We've said it before. We've said it here first.
None of them were into like biting or anything, were they?
Baxter's love life is really scary, so we can't get into that.
Very scary. Low set ears. Somebody having very low ears could be a sign that they're a werewolf.
Big.
Yeah.
Big ears.
Low ears, like
so
ears that are just low on your head.
All right, so these are low ears.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird.
What?
And also a swinging stride.
Swinging stride.
So you know how I walk and I swing my hips really bad when I walk? Like I have a very effeminate walk. I could be pegged as being a werewolf.
Okay, and these are
mine's from an injury, but
European folklore.
Yes.
So some European folklore. If you have bad posture and you are swinging your arms like this, like a gorilla, you're probably a werewolf.
It's more your hips moving back and forth when you walk.
So it's hips. So we
like a dog, like a wolf.
So we'd use this Bigfoot as an example. You're like this. Doo 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 doo. Then you're a werewolf.
That was the most succinct demonstration of a swinging walk.
That's the best. That's the best demonstration. We have Bigfoot Joe right here.
Bigfoot Joe, you said?
This is now Bigfoot Joe.
Bigfoot Joe? All right. Well, yeah, he needed a name. A method that you can identify a werewolf in its human form was to take their arm, cut the flesh open, and if they were a werewolf, you would be able to see hair under the flesh. They'd be furry inside. So you know a number of people that probably got their arms sliced open, like, are you a werewolf? Are you a werewolf? Slice their arm open, they're like, oh no, that's all juicy. That's not hairy at all.
Without a doubt in my mind, I mean, if you have ingrown hair
They just cut in
that
just
badly?
the right spot.
Ingrown hair that badly, then you need to see a lycanologist or whatever.
Yeah.
But how would you know?
So another superstition says that a werewolf can be identified by bristles under the tongue. Now, it is my theory that that comes from something that you can do yourself. If you take a washcloth or a towel, and you fold it up, and you hold it under your tongue, and you hold it there for like a solid 2 or 3 minutes, so that it absorbs all of the saliva in your mouth, and then quickly peel it away, you actually do have parts of your tongue that become weird tentacle-like tendrils that stick out from the bottom of your tongue, and they are more prevalent the thirstier you are. So that might tie into the idea of people contracting rabies being identified as werewolves. They would have those little tendrils underneath their tongue.
That's fascinating. That's like, is that like, so your tongue kind of becomes like a cat tongue?
Yes.
It's like sandpaper.
Yeah, but underneath, it's got
underneath.
Yeah, underneath.
Underneath.
You know, like if you look at the bottom of your tongue, those ridges that go down, the tendrils actually stick off of there. You can do it. I'll show you after we're done filming if you want.
No,
it's
no,
really freaky.
no. I absolutely believe you. Yes,
It's very freaky.
underneath the tongue.
I've done it. It's weird as hell. Most werewolves throughout folklore are seen as just regular wolves. You know, the anthropomorphic, the wolfman thing. That was a later thing. In most folklore, they appear as a regular wolf without a tail, because when people transform into animals, apparently they can't transform with a tail because humans don't have tails.
That would explain why in some versions of it, in movies and TV again, they don't have tails.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Carnival Row. The Carnival Row, people. Carnival Row. It's a pretty good show with Orlando Bloom. They have werewolves in it. Actually, wait, but these werewolves don't even have fur. If I remember correctly, they're just big. They're very, big, meaty kind of dogs, but there's no tail.
Well, think about the Lon Chaney Jr. Wolfman. He didn't have a tail.
Oh, this is true. Well, he was just a man. He just put on put the makeup on, all the hair and everything.
Yep.
Actually, if you think about it, in what movie do they have a tail?
Van Helsing, they have a tail. Dog Soldiers, they have a tail.
Do they?
I believe so, yeah.
Well, the Van Helsing one with the Hugh Jackman.
Yeah. But yeah, aside from
Hugh
not having a
Jackman.
tail, they're often seen as larger than a regular wolf, with
Jackman.
human eyes and a human voice.
What?
Yep.
Oh, that's stupid.
According-
Wait, so these dogs talk to you?
Yeah, the dogs can talk to you. Be like, hey, how's it going? I'm going to eat you. Yeah.
I don't know. I got nothing.
According to some Swedish accounts, the werewolf could be distinguished from a regular wolf by the fact that it would run on 3 legs, stretching the 4th one backwards to look like a tail, as to obscure itself from suspicion.
Wow.
That would look
Well, now we're getting into the weird.
Now we're getting into the real weird ones. After returning to their human forms, werewolves are usually documented as becoming weak, debilitated, and undergoing painful nervous depression. So you basically need to eat something, get yourself pepped back up, get some coffee in you, because you're going to be quite tired from having to undergo a full body mutation.
Well, just to be quite clear, we are still in the ancient medieval time period right now. So we're in the Dark Ages still.
Yes. One thing that was a trait in medieval Europe was there was a habit of werewolves devouring newly buried corpses. And so you'd see these graves dug up of newly buried corpses, and they'd be like, oh, it must have been werewolves eating these people.
We're both centering that screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Just double checking. Just double checking the cameras. Very good.
Yeah. But you'd have these newly buried corpses that'd be dug up, and they'd blame it on werewolves, whereas in actuality it was usually just grave robbers just trying to get their gold and stuff that was buried with them, or trying to dig up body parts.
But wouldn't it just be normal wolves or coyotes that are hungry? Why do they have to be
bodies are usually buried 6 feet deep, specifically because that's too far down for a wolf won't dig that far.
Okay, but were they digging the locks 6 feet deep in medieval times?
Yeah, usually. They would bury them very, very deeply, or they would pile rocks up on top of it in order deter animals.
Right, exactly. Okay, good. Well, I would just wanted to clarify that because it was, they're medieval times and they're stupid. So I just wanted to double check.
Well, yeah, so they would blame it on werewolves, when in actuality it was probably grave robbers or people trying to create medical journals and stuff, which was a practice that went way into even the early 1900s of people taking newly dead corpses and selling them to doctors or cutting them apart in order to study the inner workings.
Dr. Frankenstein. Dr. Frankenstein, he was a grave robber. Now, we haven't dug up any graves. Because we're Baxter and the General, we don't do that.
Respect the dead, but in fact, the earliest known or the earliest documented American serial killer, H.H. Holmes, he did that. He would get newly killed bodies and sell them to doctors, or he would strip all the flesh off and sell the skeletons. He was big into the skeleton selling. So that's a practice that's been around forever.
Well, yeah, but. So he was a serial killer, but he would dig up dead people they're already dead.
Or he would get them from the morgue and stuff like that.
But they're already dead.
Yeah, they're already dead.
So this was his side gig to his murdering.
He also killed a lot of people.
So this was his side gig to the murdering.
Yeah. I'm saying aside from killing the people and stripping their skeletons and selling those, he would actually go and get other bodies as well in his free time. Kind of a messed up dude.
That's
Oh yeah.
Not a doubt in my mind.
So there's lots of different ways that you can become a werewolf.
So you don't have to just be bit by a werewolf then.
So being bit or scratched by a werewolf is the most commonly held belief of how you become a werewolf. However, there in folklore in ancient times, you could take off all your clothes and then put on a belt made of wolfskin. Become a werewolf that way. Or wear... Go ahead.
These people were into some freaky shit.
Oh, yeah. Or you could put on a wolf pelt, and you'd become a werewolf there. You'd be possessed by the spirit of this werewolf, which that serial killer I was telling you go around killing people wearing the wolf skin, and he's just like, I'm a werewolf, trust me, dude.
Oh, that guy.
Listen, bro, I'm totally a werewolf. You can tell from this wolf skin I'm wearing. Which is funny, because that is actually identical to the beliefs of the skinwalker in North America.
I was just about to say, are we going to get to the Native American folklore? Because they also have their versions of the werewolf. They have the...
Specifically the skinwalker.
Well, yeah, but what's that other one? The Wendigo.
A Wendigo is totally different.
A Wendigo is not a werewolf-type creature.
No, Wendigo is just a malevolent spirit of cannibalism.
Oh, yeah. Well, never mind.
That's more like a rotting corpse ghoul type thing. Skinwalker, basically...
okay, I just want to clarify, because it's in that same sort of vein, I suppose, where it's
similar in the fact that it eats people, but it's
sort of a right, yeah, and I think it's probably the most famous Native American creature, probably.
The Skinwalker.
It's not the Wendigo; it's the Skinwalker.
The Skinwalker, yeah.
The Skinwalker is the most.
Skinwalker would be, yeah.
Oh wow! Okay, well there you go.
So it's with the Skinwalkers. Basically, there'd be reportings of a shaman that would put on a wolf skin and then would go and terrorize a local village, turning into said wolf. So that's a fun tie-in. That's something that has been through. You good?
Just ignore me, General.
Oh, okay. But basically, it would that's an interesting tie-over that even into North America, you'd have these people who would believe that by wearing a wolf skin, they would become the creature that they said to be, and then they would stalk people. And apparently there was a whole ass thing with that. We'll have to do an episode on skinwalkers, because that's some gruesome, harrowing stuff. The rights to become a werewolf or to become a skinwalker. Interesting.
To become one, because people wanted to become one.
Yep. It's
wow.
It's horrible stuff. In other cases, the body of a person who wanted to become a werewolf could be rubbed with a magic salve and would become a werewolf that way. Just rub some goop on them.
What is a salve?
A magic goo.
So it's goo.
Yeah, just magic goop they'd put on you. Like a cream.
You have lots of experience with goop.
I have so much experience with goop. Oh, yeah.
You know what we just watched.
I know exactly what we just watched. My crowning achievement.
Yeah, but that was really scary. That was the time we were under attack by monsters, and you actually became well, what I thought was you, and because I killed you, but I didn't really, because that was the spirit. It was some kind of evil spirit that had tentacles and things.
Yeah, Lovecraft.
That was the crazy, horrible village full of witches and
all kinds of stuff.
Evil.
Drinking rainwater out of a footprint of an animal in question could turn you into said animal. In folklore, so if you drink water from a wolf's paw print in the mud, you can turn into a wolf. Can you imagine drinking out of a like an elephant footprint, become a were-elephant?
Well, this is just the sky. Who's going to do that anyway? Who's going to look down and go, "There's a footprint in the mud. Let's drink it."
Somebody who is 1, very thirsty, or 2, really wants to become a werewolf.
We're still in medieval times, right? So they're stupid.
Yeah, still in medieval times.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to become a werewolf, don't go out and drink water out of a muddy paw print. That's how you get dysentery and die pooping.
Absolutely. There are many modern ways to become a werewolf. Definitely don't do that.
Yeah, dysentery is a bad disease. You will die, and it will hurt the entire time you're dying because you will be bleeding from your butthole.
There's this thing called bacteria and germs. Mm-hmm. Germs, I tell you.
There was also the idea of satanic allegiance could turn you into a werewolf. Or, weirdly enough, in Italy, France, and Germany, it was said that a man or a woman could turn into a werewolf if he or she, on a certain Wednesday or Friday, slept outside on a summer night with the full moon shining directly on their face. Which is where the term lunatic comes from.
Because lunar.
Yep, Luna being the name of the moon. Like, people don't know that. Mm-hmm. Our moon is technically, the name of it is Luna. Our sun is technically named Sol. Mm-hmm. So yeah, lunatic would be people who go crazy on a full moon, and that's even into the modern day. You'll have people in the service industry or in medical industry
100%
are terrified of full moons because people do freaking go crazy on a full moon.
And I guess suppose real sidetrack real quick because it has to do with the moon is closer.
No, it has to do with the full light from the moon
and the gravity.
And the gravity. It's not that it's closer. It's that's just the side of the moon that's facing the Earth at that time.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, just to clarify, because there's throw out the common what's the word, misnomer?
Yes.
And then you sort of, but also full moon, the tides. Does that affect the tides?
It doesn't affect the tides for a full moon. The tides are depending on where the moon is in respect to Earth. Basically, the point of Earth that is closest to the moon at any given time is going to have a high tide, as well as the spot on Earth that is furthest away from the moon is going to have a high tide. And then as the moon rotates around the Earth, as the Earth rotates, that kind of bulge stays put as the world rotates underneath it, more or less.
Well, right, and so that can affect the tides, and we know this because we know many salty sea dog sailors. There's got to be a better way to say that. But they know this, and they're aware of this because they're sailors.
Yeah.
But there's also different high tides at different times of day, and depending on where you are, of course, but the moon can also affect it.
Yeah, the moon has everything to do with it. Yep. Just not the full moon. Full moon is just basically how much light.
Right. Yeah. If you're gonna get into it, because the tides come in and come out.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And you can become a lunatic.
Absolutely.
So, but
becoming a werewolf could be seen as divine punishment.
Wait. But real quick. So because the moon is so bright. It causes everyone to lose their minds a little bit, but doesn't that more have to do with gravity pulling on you or pushing you, or so it kind of affects your hormones, or?
I think it has everything to do with getting more light when it's supposed to be dark. Your brain kind of freaks out. It's like sleeping with a nightlight or without one.
So it can mess with your
affect your mood,
your circadian rhythm. Then it could really
absolutely
mess that up. And okay, well, I just
100% that. Yeah,
it's very okay. It's just I thought it was
so being a lunatic, that was legitimately a medical term for a long time.
100%.
So it could be divine punishment. You could be cursed to become a werewolf by God or by a saint. The Roman Catholic Church tried to convince people that Those who were excommunicated by the Roman Catholic Church would turn into a werewolf. So that was another reason to stay in, especially during the Protestant era, when Martin Luther put up started the mass exodus away from the Roman Catholic Church.
So basically, if you were Lutheran, you were a werewolf.
More or less, you could become a werewolf if you left the church.
Very interesting.
Some remedies for werewolves, ways to stop from being a werewolf. Basically, you just have to exercise the hell out of them, make them run for a long period of time. Finally, they'd get tired, fall over, and turn back into a human. It was seen in, let's see.
Wait.
Yeah.
So not exorcism, but exercise.
Exercise. And then you could also use exorcism. You could cure a werewolf medicinally using like wolf's bane or something like that. You could cut the malicious spirit out of them surgically, or you could give them an exorcism, chase the spirits out. There was a Sicilian belief of Arabic origins that a werewolf can be cured of its ailment by striking it on the forehead or the scalp with a knife.
Well, doesn't it have to be made of silver?
No. That's a more modern thing. That actually originated more with vampires. The idea of silver. Silver is seen as a pure metal, because it does not lose weight when you melt it or anything. It's a pure metal. It has a great conductivity, and also it has naturally antibiotic properties. Where if you have a chalice that is made of like just iron, and you leave your cup of iron set out overnight, you're going to have more bacteria in it than if you have a cup made of silver and you leave water in it overnight. Silver has naturally antibiotic qualities. It will fight microbes. And so it was seen as a pure metal. Gold is also seen as somewhat of a pure metal. And so that was a big held belief as to why werewolves being opposed to silver, or the silver bullet and stuff like that, stems from that. And also from in Christian writings with Judas taking 30 pieces of silver to betray Christ. And so silver is seen as a method of punishing the unholy.
And that was kind of brought in later
Yes.
to the werewolf mythos.
Yep.
So the Lone Ranger who shoots silver bullets was killing all the werewolves.
There was also a German-held belief that if you called a werewolf by its Christian name 3 times, it would turn back. There was a Danish belief that you just gotta really scold a werewolf, just yell at it. Hey, you stop doing that, and it'll be like, oh.
Well, wait. So are we knowing thy enemy now?
This is just, this is all.
Well, to how to defeat them, I suppose.
No, this is just remedies for if you're a werewolf, how to stop. We'll get into that.
Okay. So this is like
healing
yourself rather than self-defense.
More or less, yeah.
I'm jumping ahead. I'm jumping the gun here a little bit.
Let's see. Conversion to Christianity is said to remove lycanthropy. Devotion to Saint Hubert can stop you from being a werewolf.
Hubert. But what did he do?
Not a clue. I don't know about Saint Hubert. Let's see.
Leave it in the comments below.
So, during the Monster War, we actually encountered quite a few werewolves. It all started during the Battle of Gore Gorge. We actually believe that with all of this evidence here, that werewolves didn't exist. It was just crazy people, right? Through all the studying and stuff that I just related to you, in our research that we had seen, we decided that werewolves were one of those cryptids, one of those monsters that did not exist. And boy, were we wrong. They brought them out en masse against us, and we were decimated at Gore Gorge.
So, as in the video that I mentioned earlier, we were pretending to be a werewolf to demonstrate what was going on. We were at Gore Gorge.
Gorge.
Failed to mention that.
Yep. We're at Gore Gorge, the National Historical Site for Gore Gorge. And we go over a lot more in depth there what happened. Mm-hmm. But
and check out the video. It's a good video. We're there.
Oh, yeah.
At the site at the Battle of Gore Gorge, Part 1 and Part 2.
Many different things happened with the werewolves. They would bite our troops and turn them into werewolves. They were going and drinking the water out of the stream that we were getting our drinking water from. And just the trace amounts of their saliva were turning our troops into into were creatures that were more like a were beagle, not quite a full werewolf.
I remember that. We did cover that a little bit.
They were a lot friendlier, actually, and they became great scouts for the army afterwards. Great tracking troops. Great sense of smell on those guys.
But after 9 days, did they return to humans?
We
or is
didn't
that
really time
wishful
it, but,
thinking?
I mean,
Wishful thinking, perhaps.
they also weren't Greek.
Well, some of them could be. Oh, now we're getting into technicalities. But but actually, so what happens if and this probably did happen, right? If I remember correctly, when you were telling me one time, there was this whole camp that got infected. Well, then you kind of had to bomb the whole camp.
Oh yeah, we actually ended up having to cluster bomb the entire camp. We in the munitions, we actually loaded them up with the little silver pellets. We actually had to go on a whole silver drive for quite a long time. A lot of
silver mining of the silver.
No, not mining. We actually went door to door. We were asking people like, "Hey, do you have any silver?" and stuff like that. We would collect from them, and we were doing.
Wow.
So there was forks and spoons and all kinds of stuff in these cluster bombs. We just dropped on the camp and just let the silver do its thing.
Oh, you didn't melt it down first into like a cool kind of shape.
Why bother? If I throw a fork at you, it's going to hurt like hell, right?
Well, this is a good point.
And the thing is, with a silver bullet...
Again, abusive relationship.
Yeah. Got to keep you in your place. But with the silver bullet, you actually want to use something that's more like a capfire or a musket, something that's going to be a breech load. It's a round pellet, works the best. You don't want something that is going to penetrate too deep, because the trick is to get the silver to stay in the body of the werewolf itself.
And then they turn back into a man, but they're dead.
They usually just die.
Do they turn... Well, sure, but in every... So they've been hit with whatever remedy it is, and they turn from a werewolf and back into their human form.
They usually just die.
Well, that's not fun.
No, it's not fun at all. It depends on how long it goes. If you shoot them and they're struggling enough, they don't die and they do transform back. You can sometimes bring them back to health, but if they're staying in their wolf form, they're gonna die straight up from the silver. If you get it to stay in their body, if you have a bullet that's gonna get too much penetration, like you have a sniper bullet or something like that made from silver, we tried all of these different things. It would pass right through. They'd have a mild allergic reaction. That was about it. But with the werewolf being allergic to silver, you want to get it to stay inside. So you want like a 22 bullet, or you want like a musket shot. We used a lot of flintlock pistols to take out werewolves.
Were these wolves able to, or these werewolves?
Yeah.
Were they able to change at will, or they were only at, full moon time?
See, now there is a very major distinction there, where basically lycanthropy in the real sense, what we actually have in real life is it's a disease, it's a virus in the blood that perpetuates into the saliva that actually holds a supernatural entity within it. So it's almost like you're being possessed by a virus rather than just contracting it itself. So it depends on the will of the person. The dumber the person, the more of a chance you have to just turn straight up into a wolf and just stay as a wolf. The more human, the more higher intelligence, the more willpower a person has, they're going to have more of that sort of anthropomorphic look to them. They're going to have more human qualities. And then you have people who are absolutely brilliant, the best minds, the greatest willpower, the greatest people out there. They're going to be more like a wolfman. They're going to have very human qualities, just very furry, increased strength, and...
So sometimes there's different kinds of werewolves then during the war and whatnot. There's the kind where, traditional sense, a werewolf will bite you, and on a full moon, you'll become a werewolf, like in the werewolf, like in the wolfman.
Yes.
You'll become a wolfman. Maybe that is a little bit of a distinction between a werewolf and there's also a wolfman. And then there's the kind where it's like, well, now I'm a man, now I'm a werewolf, and I can change because I'm a badass.
Yeah, basically, the more badass a person is, the more likely they are to have more control over the lycanthropy itself.
I like it.
So you have somebody like certain people from the war that we're not going to mention here.
Certain people. We shouldn't release their names.
Yeah, I shouldn't release their names. He during the war.
I don't know if you heard that, but I farted really loudly because this coffee is doing something.
So we had a few people during the war that did become lycanthropes and did maintain control over it. However, most of them defected to the monster side of the monster war.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. No, yeah.
It was quite heartbreaking, actually, because a lot of them were brilliant minds that we ended up losing in that way. And the thing is, the more...
And are they a threat now?
Who knows?
Because during the adventures of Baxter and the General, where we're fighting the monsters, and, well, we're doing all kinds of fun things. But who knows? There could be a second monster war.
Very well could.
At some point, but hopefully not.
We're trying to
Because that
avoid
wouldn't be good.
that. But, yeah, so werewolves have been around for time immemorial. And now that you know how to identify a werewolf, here's a few things to do in order to defend yourself against a werewolf. So the first thing you're going to want to do...
Now that we know the enemy...
is you're going to want to get in close, and if you have silver, you're going to want to attack it with the silver, because they are allergic, they're going to have a reaction to it, and that is the best way to fight them. If you don't have any silver available, what you do is you get up there, reel in nice deep and close, and start belly rubbing. Just get in there with the fingers, get in there under that top fur, get in there at the belly rubs, and they will lay over on their side, and they will pant, and they will kick their leg and everything. You just got to get in there real deep and get the really good belly rubs, and then hopefully they'll be so euphoric from such an experience that you'll have time to run away.
Because they won't turn back into a man or woman directly after being tickled.
Not necessarily. It'll just kind of, like, with any dog, think about it. You belly rub a dog for a little bit, they're going to be incapacitated for a few seconds. Usually.
Oh, man. But But a dog would become your best friend sometimes. So now... I don't know.
Lead that werewolf into a false
werewolf,
sense of security, and it's going to be like, oh, this guy's nice, and that's when you just right in the back.
Then you take it to where the towards the hedges, where there's a firing squad with a bunch of silver
you're thinking
bullets.
like we did in the Monster War right there.
Pretty violent, pretty terrible, and kind of cool.
So another thing you could do: werewolves love fetch. One of our favorite things to do was get a grenade. We'd paint it up real bright like a tennis ball, bright yellow. And we'd be like, go get it, boy. Pull the pin and throw it. They'd go over, they'd grab it in their mouth, and you go, boom! That was a lot of fun. During the Battle of Gore Gorge, Sergeant Ramirez, he lost his hand, and we were surrounded, and I ended up throwing the hand. And all the werewolves ran off to get the hand, and they brought it back. And I picked it up, I threw it again, and they brought it back. We were playing fetch with these werewolves for probably about 2 hours, or we were trying to figure out what to do. Ramirez bled out, but ultimately we were able to get away in that way. We ended up using a grenade to scare him off instead of the hand. We still got that hand mummified at the Veterans of Monster War Association headquarters. We preserved it.
We shouldn't talk about the... Probably shouldn't talk about the VMA.
Everybody knows about the VMA.
The Veterans of the Monster War. Whatever. I guess we did talk about it.
We're untouchable, Baxter.
We're
untouchable.
Okay.
They can't come get us. They can't come get us. But yeah, basically just go for things that you can... chocolate. Chocolate's a great way. Think about it. You throw out chocolate, they're going to try and eat the chocolate, even though it's not good for them.
Laced with silver.
No, just chocolate by itself is going to kill them.
Oh, chocolate?
It's toxic.
Chocolate sort of like a dog, then.
Yeah, exactly like a dog. Yeah, think
fair
about
enough.
That. Things that'll kill a dog, usually avocado, instantly
Do
toxic.
avocados, seriously, avocados will kill your dog.
Mm-hmm. And think about an avocado. It looks like a ball. You throw that, they're going to go after it. They think it's a ball, and then they're going to pick it up. Their teeth are going to go in. They're going to like, oh, this is kind of creamy, kind of buttery. They're going to eat it and then die. And then you got to worry about it. Grapes are another good way to kill a werewolf. Cherry pits, they got a lot of arsenic in them. Have to kill them.
So so these are very good ideas. So make sure you keep these in mind. Do you have anything else for, I don't know, ancient times? Or did we sort of glossed over it in a lot of ways? You could spend so much time.
There was a lot of it. I think that in future episodes, eventually, we will kind of maybe compartmentalize some of the stories, some of the tales. We'll talk about Peter Stoop, who was
Peter Stoop.
Peter Stoop, who was a serial killer from, I think, Germany, who was, an alleged serial killer and cannibal that was alleged as being a werewolf. He was charged as being a werewolf and executed for it. We could also talk about the guy who was that werewolf from God. I think that'd be a lot of fun. And then we might do a whole episode just talking about like pop culture werewolves, talk about like werewolves from movies and stuff.
So this was sort of your Werewolves 101.
Werewolf premiere. Just a basic understanding of them. I think that it's good to start there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's about all I had on it. Yeah, basically, if you are approached by a werewolf, try throwing something. And if you're approached by somebody with a big unibrow that they're like licking their lips and trying to get close to you, try throwing something over to the side as well. If they go running for it, run away, they're probably a werewolf.
That is true.
Yep. However, if you do come across somebody with Down syndrome, they just have Down syndrome, they're not a werewolf. That is a ridiculous tie over from ancient medical things. They didn't know what they were talking about. But unibrows, that's why you got to pluck. That's why you got to pluck those things. That way people don't think you're a werewolf. Beauty tips from the general.
All right, I guess we could wrap this one up here.
Yeah, that's about all I got.
So all the videos that were referenced, the episodes are in the description below, as usual. And please share this video with your friends and your family if you enjoyed it, and please like and subscribe. It helps us with the algorithms.
If you like learning about monsters, cryptids, things like that, if you thought this was informational, and if you like this, our brand of relaying it to you with a little bit of fun with it, rather than just a boring voice just reading about stuff, go ahead and subscribe, because we're going to make a lot more of stuff like this. Like if we have we've entertained you for an hour here, go ahead and give us a like. Let us know. Let us know in the comments things you'd like for us to cover in the future. And if you hated us, tell us down there. If I made a mistake on anything, let me know. If you have an encounter with a werewolf, let me know that as well. That would be pretty cool to learn about.
And if you are a werewolf, please let us know as well.
If you are a werewolf, let me know in the comments. Let us know. Tell us that you are a werewolf, and maybe we'll come play fetch with you.
Well, until next time then, Gark Peoples.
Gark Peoples, yeah.
Or the army, I guess.
Sounds like a slur.
I don't know. You were saying the...
Gark Peoples.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.